This is Tom Doody, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Doody in a Google search for my site. Yes, co-founder Chris Squires dies by Nick DeRiso, June 28th at 11:24 a.m. Chris Squire, stalwart co-founder of Yes, has died. Bandmate Geoff Downes confirms via Twitter the 67-year-old had announced a hiatus from the band in May following a diagnosis of acute erythroid leukemia. Utterly devastated beyond words to have to report the sad news of the passing of my dear friend, bandmate, and inspiration, Chris Squire, says Downes, who appeared on 3 Yes studio albums with the bass playing legend. 1980s drama, 2011's Fly From Here, and 2014's Heaven and Earth. Squires was the only constant in the band that began evolving almost as soon as it was founded in advance of the self-titled 1969 debut, Yes. August 7th concert with Toto will mark the first ever without him. Yes later released a statement that marked Squire's passing. It's with heaviest hearts and unbearable sadness that we must inform you of the passing of our dear friend and Yes co-founder, Chris Squire. Chris peacefully passed away last night in Phoenix, Arizona, in the arms of his loving wife, Scotty. For the entirety of Yes' existence, Chris was a band linchpin and, in so many ways, the glue that held together over all of these years. Because of his phenomenal bass playing prowess, Chris influenced countless of bassists around the world, including many of today's well-known artists. Chris was also a fantastic songwriter, having written and co-written much of Yes' most endearing music, as well as his solo album Fish Out of Water. Outside of Yes, Chris was a loving husband to Scotty, a father to Carmen, Chandrika, Camille, Cameron, and Xilan. With his gentle, easygoing nature, Chris was a great friend to many, including each of us. But he wasn't merely our friend, he was also part of our family, and we will forever miss him. Squire's work on Heaven and Earth helped that project to a top 20 finish on the UK charts. Yes, best-selling album included 1983 triple platinum, 90125, and 1971's double platinum, Fragile. Born at the right time, March 4th, 1948, Squires quickly developed musical genius, was matched stride for stride by technology. He used a distinctive Rickenbacker 4001 electric to help redefine the role of the bassist, even as he became, Yes, undisputed leader. Our second album, Time and Word, was when we first started to work with Eddy Offord. Squire once told Ultimate Classic Rock, he liked the way my tone was coming out of my Marshall 100 watt that I used ever since the beginning. Really, the thing that we added to that by using certain compression in certain settings that he liked in the studio So we just developed it really from Time in a Word onwards. I suppose you could say that by that time we got to Fragile and Runabout, he really finessed the production of my bass sound. Chris Squire's focus beyond a lone solo effort, 1975, Fish Out of Water, was always up with the band. Yes, released a total of 21 studio albums. He remained steadfastly in place until today, while the group, which has some 40 members, former members, occasional studio sidemen in its ranks, went through a series of lineup changes. It's really more by default than by design that the situation has occurred, Squires remembered. I think that a lot of those instances, there had been a lot of members of the band who had decided they wanted to leave and mainly pursue solo projects. And in the case of Rick Wakeman, that happened 3 or 4 times. When he'd leave, then he'd come back. And with Jon Anderson, that happened in the past. And he's gone off to do solo things and he'd come back into the fold. We must remember also that, of course, Alan White was also been since 1972 when the band came in. So he's been a constant compadre of mine ever since then. White is now, yes, longest 10-year member. Guitarist Steve Howe joined in 1970, beginning the first of what would become 3 separate stints. Billy Sherwood, a 90s era contributor, has already announced as Squire's replacement on the upcoming Yes Tour. Squires is the second member to have died, following fellow co-founder Peter Banks in 2013. This has been Tom Doody, middle-aged American living in New Jersey near the Lincoln Tunnel. If you were to visit my website, you would type Howdy Doody into Google. You'll find the correct spelling of the famous puppet. You then combine Tom Doody in a Google search for my site. Thank you for listening. Have a good day, good evening, and restful night's sleep. Ciao.